Check me out. Look, I know perfect timing feels like I'm too late. And I know I'm still great in spite of my mistakes. You know it's authentic every rhyme I say.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Perfect Timing Multisport. I just realized, so before I was saying yo all the time, now I just keep saying welcome. So I need to, at some point, I'm just going to like switch stuff up all the time. But nonetheless, welcome to another episode. I'm really excited to bring my guy Tay here to the community and share his story with you guys. How you doing, man?
Yo. Yeah, it feels good, man. You know, happy to be here.
All right, happy to have you here. For folks that don't know Tay, he is a DRC captain, which we'll get into a little bit. But outside of running, he is also a triathlete, which is how him and I really connected and built a relationship. But even outside of athletics, he has a really unique story, really important journey, as we all do, right? And I want to make sure I bring his story and share his story with the community. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump straight to it. We are in the athletic space, so I'm curious, can you tell us a little bit about your entry to athletics?
So I grew up playing sports.
What sports?
I played organized football since I was in 4th grade. Also ran track, indoor track. Wrestling one season, didn't like that.
Oh, wow.
Baseball, basketball when I was really younger, but people started getting taller and I didn't, so I had to let that go. But football was my main sport, and I kind of like play sports year round, just to stay in shape for football.
All right. So this is like growing up at a young age. How about as you started to develop and grow a little bit older? Like, what were your sports into high school?
High school was majority football. I was starting varsity my sophomore year.
Mm-hmm.
I went to one of the bigger schools in North Carolina.
Okay.
So that was like the main focus sport. And the next year in college, I was on the golf team for 1 year.
All right. So this is with this such a diverse background in athletics. Like, where did this come from?
My dad, he played college football, and he grew up in DC. Had an uncle. He played college basketball at UDC. And was actually on the Division II National Championship team. So I kind of grew up around sports my entire life.
Wow, I love that. So I know football was like your main sport. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, what position did you play?
I played defensive back and running back growing up, and then in high school it was majority like safety and corner.
Okay.
It was fun. I enjoyed high school football. You know, taught me a lot of lessons, especially training wise and weight room and kind of like the structure of practice every day and stuff like that. Right. Kind of like helps out now or whatnot.
Okay, I love that. So you mentioned starting as a sophomore. So not only starting, but starting as a sophomore at a pretty big football school. So what did you continue to start? Like, what was the rest of your football career like?
So I started varsity my sophomore year, then I got injured. So dislocated my shoulder sophomore year, missed that season. My junior year, I dislocated again. Then I had to get shoulder surgery, so I missed that season. So the only season I actually finished was my freshman year and my senior year. And by the time my senior year came, I was like, well, I just got to finish what I start, but I didn't really have any like major aspirations to play in college, which kind of made me focus more on like academics and missing those 2 full seasons.
Makes sense. So going from, playing football at a pretty high level, right, as I can assume, and not only playing at a high level at that time, but really playing throughout your life at this high level, and then now you have to take the step back due to an injury. Can you tell us a little bit about how you navigated that from a mental health standpoint at such a young age?
When the doctor told me I was missing season, I was crying. Are you serious? I was crying in the office like this can't be life. Yeah. Especially 2 years back to back, you put so much like energy, effort, and training throughout the year for the season, and then one play, everything was underwater. But it kind of just reiterated to me, let me focus on stuff I can't control, which was more so my academics. Because I was, I had okay grades, but I wasn't really applying myself. until that happened. And then after that happened, I was like, let me focus on this, because two, I'm not that tall, so it's like you gotta do a lot of work, man. Them guys get big in college, so it's like this may not be it.
All right. So that's one lesson you learned, but going back to this journey as an athlete and having such an athletic family, I'm sure there were a lot more lessons that you learned. So can you tell us about some lessons that you learned as an athlete growing up and as a teenager from your athletic family?
Yeah, I actually learned like a lot of like skill and like know the game. A lot of people are super athletic and can jump high, run fast, do whatever, but they don't like read defenses or read offenses or do the extra work in the training like outside of your regular practice. Like I would run hills, run stairs. I had speed trainers trying to get faster and quicker. I was jumping rope and stuff like that. I learned from like my dad and my uncle just give me tidbits, and it helped a lot with my footwork and stuff like that. And then too, from like a mentality perspective, it's like being undersized and playing defense or playing safety. Mm-hmm. You gotta tackle guys a lot bigger than you. Right. So you gotta have a certain mentality, like, hey, this guy, I'm about to get his ass. He's not gonna get me. Yeah. So that was always fun, when you do stuff like that.
So how would you apply like the things that you learned through training and on the field to off the field and in life?
Actually, I see a lot of that more now, and it's really like more so the routine of like doing something 5 days a week at a certain time every day, and in addition to like being at school and get your classwork done. It's kind of like going to work and still like working out every day. Especially training for triathlon is a lot of time, and then that routine, that habit of Tuesday, Thursday you do this, Wednesday is this, Friday is this. I kind of built that routine like when I was like in my youth or whatnot.
I love that. So staying along those lines with those lessons, I'm curious, how did these things that you learned through athletics help as you transitioned to college?
College was college. That was it. So a lot of stuff didn't help out to after undergrad. But undergrad was like like a shit show. So it's like I was just living life. Just, making it happen.
Maybe, as you say, make it do what it do, right?
Make it do that. But undergrad was fun though. It was fun. It was a good time.
Where'd you go? And what'd you go to school for?
Went to Temple State University in North Carolina. And
so you stayed close to home?
Yeah, stayed close to home. I wasn't going out of state. And then my major was exercise science. So initially I wanted to go to physical therapy. That was actually from when I was in high school, having shoulder surgery, going to physical therapy, but I didn't. It wasn't my industry, so I was like, nah, that's not it for me. All right. But school was fun, but it's very random in college. Yeah. Time-wise, and I was working, I was in school, and having fun and doing other stuff. So so a lot of those, it was no structure there.
That's real. So going to Winston-Salem State, I'm curious, why did you choose to go to an HBCU?
Both my mom and father went to HBCUs. Okay. They both went to North Carolina Central University, which is in Durham, North Carolina, where I grew up. So every year, like my dad would take me to homecomings. I'd be going to step shows. I would go to games, the rivalry games, whatever games throughout, me growing up. So I kind of just grew up around the atmosphere. Yeah. So I knew if I had to pay for college, I'm going to HBCU.
That's real. What can you explain a little bit more about that? If you had to pay for college, you were definitely going to an HBCU. Why do you feel like that?
The culture, man, the experience is something you can't replicate at non-HBCUs. And it's just kind of just like the energy, like the band, and the camaraderie of being around your people for the next 4 years. It's kind of like, you meeting, people that look like you from all areas of the country and stuff like that. So that's something you don't get like in high school or whatnot.
So thinking about that experience, and you say your parents, they went to an HBCU. So what was that like? What did it feel like to continue on with that legacy for your family?
It felt great. I was excited to go to college, because I just kind of, being around that energy so much, it kind of like, some kids, like, I don't know if I want to go to school or not, but me being around that environment for so long, I knew I was going to college.
Yeah.
You know, I may not have known what major in and all this stuff, but at least I knew I was going to go to college and have those experiences for myself. And like a lot of my dad said, like great friends from 20, 30 years ago that he met at North Carolina Central. And his HBCUs feel more like a family when you're there than like just another student or number in the class or whatnot.
Okay. So, staying along the lines of the legacy, I know that you're also in a fraternity, right?
Yes.
That comes with a legacy of its own.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. Like, why did you choose to join a fraternity? And tell us about your journey through picking your fraternity.
Okay, so there was never no choice. It was always Kappa. I was fraternity incorporated. Actually, my dad, he's a new too. So I was introduced to that at a young age, as well as like the HBCU culture and stuff like that. So, like a lot of his frat brothers I knew my whole life, didn't even know they were Kappas. And especially in Durham, there are a lot of affluent Kappas and affluent Omegas, but you've seen those two fraternities the most.
Right.
And it's something that it was in my heart. Like, and then two, from a personality perspective, they're the type of guys I get along with the most out of everybody. But all Divine Nine groups are great. You just gotta find which one fits your niche the most. And Kappa just aligned with what I was about.
Okay, and you didn't have a choice. So.
I didn't want to make a choice.
That's real.
I made the best choice.
Yeah. So, trying to mix and blend the life at being in a fraternity and being an athlete, I'm curious, how did your experience as an athlete help prepare you for your life in a fraternity?
I guess when I was in school, after I crossed and went through the process, like step shows, having like the coordination and balance and stuff like that of being an athlete made it easier to pick up on like step shows and having the endurance so you're moving 15, 20 minutes straight. So that was, and then the structure of step practice was like, kind of our practice, the same thing over and over again, kind of getting it. So I think that part of being an athlete growing up helped in the physical side of stepping and stuff like that.
And I'm assuming just being in that community and having that team, right?
Yeah, exactly. Then you work together with other people and the team aspect of it, and some people aren't as good as others, so you gotta know how to talk to them and keep people motivated to keep go on and not quit, stuff like that. So I think the team sports growing up kind of helped out a lot with that.
I love that. And then getting back to the conversation and the topic around transitioning, I'm curious, how did being a member of your fraternity support you as you transitioned from undergrad to whatever you were doing next in life?
So after college, I moved to DC, and I actually didn't initially plan on being here that long, but I was trying to go to the military, and that didn't work out, so I ended up going to grad school here. But being in a fraternity, when I left North Carolina, it was like a new network here, and then being in a fraternity made it easier to meet people that that I didn't know already, and I didn't really see. We call it a bond. You don't really see the bond until you're like out of school, and you're cafeteria, you give them your handshake and stuff.
Yeah, that's your handshake.
But it's like instant love. It's like, just hey, what's good, man? How you doing, man? Keep it moving. I'm like, what's good, dude? What's good, brother? And then it's like a instant bond. It's a network that you would get that you wouldn't get no other way or whatnot.
Love that. So you mentioned coming here to DC and wanting to go into the military. So I'm curious about that transition. One, what branch in the military? What was that experience like? And then two, you also mentioned grad school. So we can loop back to the grad school because I know that's what you eventually did. But tell us a little bit about your experience trying to get into the military at that time.
So after college, I didn't want to pursue a career within my major. One of my grades wasn't like the highest, so I would have to go back to school for 2 years and like a postgraduate certificate just to meet the prerequisites to go to grad school. That's a lot. So I was like, let me go to the military. And my uncle was my mentor. He was retired Air Force. Okay. So he did Air Force for 20 years. And then initially I was going to go into like a healthcare field, so I was like a math science person. But being around him, he kind of opened my eyes to IT and technology. And when I was I was actually communicating with the Air Force and the Army. And I took the ASVAB, tested well, and then it was time for me to take the physical, go to MEPS. And that's when shoulder surgery stuff came out, because it was like past 7 years since I had the surgery. So they didn't have the medical documentation needed in order for me to like sit for the physical. But I want to go to the military, build credentials, learn some experience, knowledge, just make me more competitive in the workforce. And I heard it's a great opportunity to travel for free, see the world, a lot of benefits with like education, pay back student loans, and then they'll pay for like a master's degree and stuff like that. So if you go in the right direction, it can work well for you.
Yeah, I love that. So, well, obviously being a veteran myself, probably not during these times right now, but being a veteran, I definitely suggest folks taking that step if it's something that they're comfortable with. But getting back to grad school, that was something you did do. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so after the military told me no for the third time. For the third time. So I tried like multiple times with documentation, get more paperwork, bring it back. It was like at least a 2-3 month time frame to be trying to get to MEPS and whatnot. After they didn't work out the third time, the next day I started looking at grad schools. I was like, well, I got to get in like some type of way. Yeah. So actually initially looked at University of Maryland, University College. Okay. But that school was majority online, and I didn't want to go into a new field online. So I found out Towson University had a master's in applied information technology, and actually I didn't meet the GPA standard, but I went to speak to the program director at the time, and kind of finessed my way into like a probationary admittance. Yeah. And he let me get in a semester, as long as I had a 3.0 higher, continue. And actually, funny story, I actually failed my first class. Okay. It was a programming class, and it was but it was a pass or fail class. So it didn't register GPA. So I actually registered the next semester and got straight A's, and then I didn't retake that class again until like semester before I graduated. Yeah. Okay.
So now you're here in DC. You're in Towson. Taking a step all the way back, because I do want to talk about that transition here to DC a little bit. Like, what made you actually come to DC? You had family in Durham. You're from Durham. You went to school in Durham, but now you're here in DC. So, what made you come here?
So my dad's side of the family is from DC, and then at the time, the Capital One Bank, now used to be called Chevy Chase Bank, had like summer programs for college students, and you could be a bank teller for the summer. So I was like, I ain't doing nothing next month, I might as well come here. And I actually got into that program. So soon before I graduated undergrad, I was up here for a summer, just like working in the bank and staying with my grandparents. And then after I graduated, when I was about to graduate, they called me back saying, hey, do you want to come back and work? I was like, sure, because I don't have a job here. So the guy's like, well, I could pursue the military from anywhere. So, and I had somewhere to stay, so it kind of worked out well.
Okay. So I love that. Curious. You learned how you got here, Capital One, Chevy Chase, but now that you're here, you've been here for some time. Like, what makes you stay?
So now I'm assistant engineer for the government, so that's the main thing that makes me stay. But outside of that, I actually love the community of DC. And I've been to like a lot of major cities around the country, but I've never found another area that I want to live in more than living here. Yeah. And it's a good mix of like, it's not too spaced out. The people, the culture, anything you want to get into, you have people look like you that's kind of into the same type of stuff.
Right. Yeah. Being from Philly, even though I had like a really diverse community, when I started to get into like endurance sports stuff at the time, a few years, 6-7 years ago, like there wasn't nobody doing it, right? So if I went out to do it, either I had to work out with folks that were much older, folks that didn't look like me, and again, it was fine because I wanted to build that community, but it was still hard, right? Yeah. But when I came here, it was like, cool, I have this community that I can do these things with, build with, learn from, learn with, and I don't have to step outside like my demographic essentially to like do these things. So speaking of community for you though, can you expand a bit more on not only your community, but in particular your athletic community, right? And what that looks like for you today.
Well, the pandemic this looks kind of rough.
Yeah.
But prior to the pandemic, my main athletic community is called District Running Collective. And I've been with them since the beginning, probably 2014. We started doing weekly runs in DC. And Matt Green, who was the founder, one of the co-founders of District Running Collective, I knew him through mutual friends from college and whatnot. And after they got started, maybe like a month or so, that's when I started getting involved with it. And then a lot of the founders had moved away, so they needed help. So I was one of the people who were consistent enough, and I was in shape enough to like lead runs, and I kind of went from there.
I love that.
Yeah.
So what was it like to be in DRC, District Running Collective, and we'll make sure we tag that in the episode notes. But what was it like to be there in those initial stages?
Man, it was amazing to see the growth. Like, I would see them out, and I would see them, actually, at first I had 12 people running in February in the snow. I was like, no, I'm not good. No, I'm not doing that. So I told Matt, I said, hey, if this Vegas was 50 degrees or higher, I'll be there. I came out once, and then like the energy, the culture is very supportive. I was like, yo, I like this.
Yeah.
And people looked like me, and it wasn't like the pretentious, what you do, DC questions. It was like, how was the run today? How you feeling? How'd you hear about it? And then every week, it was like a new mix of people that you would meet from different backgrounds, different areas, and it was kind of, I'd never seen it like that before.
I love that. So I know you said you were, I know you're a captain now. So when did you initially become a captain and become more of a leader, and what was that progression like?
It was right that first year. So maybe 2 months after being consistent, like I said, a lot of the founders had moved away. So I needed people to kind of step up, or like take more leadership. And I was consistent every week.
Right.
And I actually knew some of the other co-founders and stuff like that. So it was an easy like mesh or whatnot.
Nice, easy transition.
And then by the end of that first year, when Matt would leave, I would be the one like leading the runs, making the speeches, stuff like that. And then by the end of the year, I think we might have like 50 to 70 people out there.
Wow.
And that's like the first year. We went from 12 people at the very beginning of the year to like 50 to 70 people by like that fall.
Wow.
That was very cool to see that progression.
Yeah, I being a member of DRC myself, it's still cool to see the growth and I just love the experience. So I'm curious though, because you're a leader then, you're continuing to be a leader now in that space, and obviously being a Kappa, you have those leadership traits just in that alone. So I'm curious with DRC specifically though, how did it feel like, and what was it like for you to actually grow as a leader within that community?
It was amazing, man. It's like in being exposed to different things, and the running community is not just limited to like DC. It's like a worldwide community. And being a part of District Running Collective kind of opened my eyes to other groups like us, or groups in different areas of the country or areas of the world. I was meeting people that I've never met before through District Running Collective. But that kind of happened over time, and then over the progression of like working together as a team, doing events, doing community service events. The progression has been great. And prior to the pandemic, like last year, we were average 200 people a Wednesday. We have our own location on 8th Street. And this is some stuff like you kind of think about it and like laugh, but now it's like, oh, we really doing it.
I love that. So everything you're just saying, it kind of, for folks, if you're thinking, years ago, it kind of seems impossible, but it definitely is possible, right? You guys did it. So I'm curious, what has your experience with DRC taught you about doing what seems like is impossible, but actually getting it done?
I guess never limiting yourself and kind of constantly like pushing yourself past what you feel you could do. There's a saying we say, I can't think of it right now, but you can't limit your scope. Like I never thought I'd be doing triathlons, or running through the desert 3 o'clock in the morning, stuff like that, or mountain races, but having that type of intention correlates to stuff outside of like fitness levels, like work-wise. You may see yourself at some point, then like I can actually do more than this, or do better than this, and kind of like that mentality kind of crosses a lot of other areas in life.
Mm-hmm. So you said running through the desert, and I know you ran up and down some mountains too with this community. So tell us a little bit about some of those like extreme endurance moments that you've done with this community.
Okay, so the craziest thing we've done might have been this thing called Speed Project. But Ship did it too.
Not yet.
You didn't do it last year?
It got canceled this year.
Oh, man. But it's crazy. It's like you're running 24/7 for 3 days. It's a race from Santa Monica Pier to the Las Vegas side. And you can't be on the highway, that's illegal. So you're going like back roads, desert, all this crazy stuff. It's like a team race. So somebody on the team is running 24/7, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. At daytime, it's like 85, 90 degrees. Nighttime, it's 32 degrees. So the desert is pitch black. I've never been somewhere when the moon wasn't out, you couldn't see your hand. Long as my little headlight went, that's the first I could see. And you're hearing things, and then not sleeping like that, nutrition, and just being tired. I felt like I was pledging over, It's like pledging running for 3 days.
And you also just mentioned something about doing triathlons, right? So knowing that you're not only a runner, I'm curious, how did you navigate and transition from being a runner only to now being a triathlete?
So a guy we both know, Marcus Fitz. He was originally one of our initial captains too, but then he kind of gravitated more towards the triathlon side. And even before we started District Tri, he would bike a lot. And I had just got a bike. One of my friends, he had a bike that he messed up, and the front tires messed up. And so I was like, well, I'll take it. He just gave it to me. He said, you can have it. It was like a road bike, and I had to get the wheel fixed. And then after I got the wheel fixed, I said, Marcus, y'all right this weekend? He was like, yeah, just come out. And that's the wrong thing to do. We came out, did like 30 miles. They smoked me. I was like, what is this? This is beyond me. I can't even, I don't know where they at no more. Can't even see them. So, but after that, I was like, oh, this is a new challenge.
Yeah. And
then actually ended up getting clips for that bike. And, the more I kept doing it, and they were teaching me, how to shift gears and, road like signals and stuff like that. And then he was like, you're already running and biking. You might as well swim too. I was like, let me think about this. And I actually went to Hagerstown Tribe. It was him, Carlton, Kev, I think one other guy. Mm-hmm. They did Hagerstown Tribe like 2015 or 2016, one of the years. And after I saw the race and how it flows, I could do this.
Yeah. So
then I started swimming too, and it was like, that was a whole other challenge. But I actually enjoyed that part of it, the challenge of learning how to do something and kind of pushing my body to see what else I can do.
All right. So do you remember your first triathlon?
My first one was a Herndon triathlon. It's a Try with Love. Actually, it was me, Brianna. I think Brianna was on this year, and then another guy. And it was cold. Actually, that was like in September or October. So we had it was an indoor pool swim, and then it was a 13-mile bike and then 5K run. And the swim 400 meters and I almost died. The lady, are you okay? You want to stop? You want to get you? Like, I'm okay, I can stand up.
Yeah.
But that first try was like, it was just fun, and then because I was used to running for 2 hours or, 4 hours or whatever it may be, but you knocking out 3 different things in like less than 2 hours, like it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then for me swimming, not being a strength of mine, I would start in the back, but then I hop on the bike and I would get faster, passing people. Then on the run, I'm passing people. So I was like, oh, this is fun. I like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. So, starting to wrap up a little bit with the social sports conversation, but I know these communities are great. I know you've learned a lot and gotten a lot from them. But I also recognize with basketball being my first love that football is your first love. Or as I have in my notes, football is better, right?
Yeah.
So I know you still try to play now. So can you talk a little bit about your experience with the community you play football with, I guess, pre-pandemic times?
Yeah, so there's a group called Project Black Flag, and they have like a flag football league that actually started because we played in like a league on a national mall, and it was like I was part of the team, like majority black team. There were like 2 other majority black teams, and then like their rules and things didn't work out well. So people who started playing on national mall said, you know what, we can do our own thing, and that's what they did.
It took off.
And it took off, and that's like a great community, man. It's like another network, and it's fun. It kind of brings back that competition that you had, you know, playing high school or college football, whatever it may be. Even up in football at all, like flag football. And it's co-ed too, so you have like men and women playing together. And you can, some of these women are like nice. You're like, whoa. You got Moss Law girl. But overall, it was fun, and it was like after the games, like all love, a lot of camaraderie, and like you said, it's a community that looks like us that I haven't seen anywhere else either.
I love that. So, in all these conversations to this point, right? You mentioned HBCU experience, right? Having that legacy. You mentioned being a member of fraternity, having that legacy. And then now you're a part of these social sports communities, which are largely led by Black leaders. I can only assume that the uprising around Black lives are playing or have really big impact in your life, right? So I'm curious, can you tell us a little bit about how this moment and especially these times are showing up in your professional, your personal ones, and your athletic spaces?
Yeah, I think it just builds awareness, and as a Black man, you kind of some stuff you kind of already know. Like you get pulled over by the police, you could go left or right real quick.
Yeah.
So you gotta be in the P's and Q's, yes ma'am, no ma'am, hands on steering wheel type stuff. And I think that's something that the world didn't really know.
Right.
You know, but as a Black man, it's something I always knew. But I think the other communities, like, you know, white, you know, Native American, Hispanic, whatever it may be, may not have known that was like a real struggle for us. And I think all the Black Lives Matter stuff bring it to light, you know, and like the inequality that goes on in the world that you may not see directly, but it's always there. It's kind of like coming to light as well. So it makes me proud to be a part of things that I'm a part of, and uplift and motivate Black people to kind of keep doing, not just Black people in general, to keep doing what they're doing and being successful in whatever they're successful in. But I think that the awareness is really, like, you know, the thing that kind of came out of this, in my perspective, you know, because I kind of knew this was going on for years, but now it's like coming to light. Other groups are like, oh wow, this really happens. Like, yes.
Right. Yeah, sure. Definitely appreciate you sharing that. So, as we mentioned earlier in the conversation, you learned some lessons as a teenager, but being an athlete, we recognize that those lessons don't stop, right, as much as we continue to grow older. So I'm curious, what has athletics taught you now as an adult?
You gotta be a dog. You can do something and try to be great at it. Whether it be work, you know, relationships, but the athletic and the competition that comes with that taught me, like, you gotta, you know, try to be the best, try to be a dog. You know, you're not the best, just try to get there, or try to be the best version of you in that sport or whatnot, or that area of life or whatnot. And that dog mentality came from me playing sports, and I kind of used that mentality in a lot of other things I do, even outside of, like, you know, working out and stuff.
Appreciate you sharing that. So keep it along those lines, some lessons, and we're about to jump into some rapid fire questions here in a sec.
Okay.
But before we get that, As you know, in the PTM community, we always are curious of how folks define the perfect athlete. All right, and I'm curious for you, how do you define the perfect athlete?
I think nobody's perfect. Everybody has their different things that they're good at. And I think the perfect athlete is someone, I guess, for me, maybe like who strives to get better.
Right.
You know, you're not just satisfied by just doing something. You want to set that barometer, a baseline. Okay, this is where I'm at today, but I want to be here tomorrow, here the next day, next year be here, next year, like God willing and time willing, like, you know, you're constantly getting better. You know, you're not stagnant in your progression or growth or whatnot. And if you do get stagnant, you find a way to like work through that and get better.
Yeah.
Or whatnot. And that's what makes being fun, you know, seeing that progress over time or whatnot.
Okay. I love that. I appreciate that. So getting into the rapid fire questions to kind of lighten things up. And the folks that are listening on the podcast, we did get some new equipment. So with that being said, it's great, better quality for you, kind of less engagement for you because you're not here to throw questions in. And since we have the microphones, Daniela may not be as able to participate as normal. So we apologize about that. But I do have some questions for you.
Okay.
What is your favorite thing to eat before a big workout or a race?
Pasta the night before. Actually, chicken Alfredo with shrimp and scallops if needed. But actually,
you just go all in.
I go all in. I need all the carbs.
All right. So, how about afterwards?
Afterwards, a cold beer. That's like, it gets cold beer and then some shots. It's sad to say, but that's the best way to recover. Like your legs may be sore, but you don't feel the pain. Then by the following day, you're like, okay, all right, I can like walk again or something like that.
All right. Well, luckily we got some athletic brewing company that we're going to give you when you leave here. Gotta throw that in. But so since I did have to throw that in, it would be remorse if I didn't ask you this rapid question. What is your favorite thing to wear on your feet as you're running?
Under Armour. I think these are the most comfortable shoes. These are the most comfortable shoes ever. But actually, so every year it changes. As being a part of District Running Collective, we secured a sponsorship through Under Armour throughout the years, and they send us shoes throughout the year, stuff like that. But actually, the Under Armour moccasins are pretty comfortable. I did 3 halves in these early this year before the world shut down. They were actually pretty good.
Before the world shut down, that's real. And the last rapid fire question I have for you is: if you had to kiss one, kill one, marry one, swim, bike, run, what would it be?
Kill the swim.
Kill the swim.
Kiss the bike, and marry the run.
All right, I love that. And before we wrap up, I know DRC, that's a really big community for you and a community for a lot of people here in the DMV area. And you guys have a pretty big event coming up here soon. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so on October 18th, we're doing this thing called District 19. It's a 19-miler, 19K race. And it's more so for a lot of people that weren't able to do like marathons and half marathons, because right now it's like the height of marathon and half marathon season. And into with like all of the Black Lives Matter and social injustice going on. It's something to kind of bring awareness to both and then give people something to train for. It's going to be socially distanced. It's free to sign up. You just districtruncollective.com. There's a link there. There's a link at the District Running Collective on Instagram. You can check it out. But 19K is like 11 miles, something like that. Then 19 milers, like 19 miles.
So what is the significance behind 19?
COVID-19, you know, how they this year kind of just shut stuff down. So, you know, we're trying to make something positive out of the COVID-19.
Love that.
Yeah.
Turn lemons into lemonade.
Exactly.
There you go. All right. What is it? Like lemon cake? I love cake. But again, definitely appreciate you joining this conversation and just joining our community and sharing your story. was really excited to hear it, really excited to share it with our community. But as we wrap up, definitely have to make sure we say thank you to all the folks that are supporting us in doing this. You know, Athletic Brewing Company, as I mentioned before, Walls Caps, which I'm going to get right back to in a sec. Actually had them last on my list for a reason. Philly Bike Expo, Aftershocks, and Urban Athletic Club. But getting back to the Walls Caps situation, as folks realized last time, we have some new caps. So as a thank you for coming and sharing your story. We wanted to give you this cap. It's a cycling cap, and I always love to tell the story behind this cap, right? Because there's a story. So on the sides, you have a bunch of words, and all the words are words that our leadership team here at PTM came up with, which at the time was me, Daniela, and Roy, and now we've added Freddie, but he wasn't here. So these are synonyms to perfect. This is how we define perfect. It is multi-language. And then on the front, obviously, you had Perfect Timing Multisport, but as you flip that down, it is P athlete. So going back to high school and middle school, where you think about the functions and equation, we have the P, which is perfect, and then athlete in parentheses because that's what you're trying to figure out. So, and under that, we have you define perfect athlete. So, again, as a thank you, we wanted to make sure we gave you that, and looking forward to continuing this on and sharing more stories. So please make sure you guys stay tuned. Please make sure you're listening in, connecting with us on Facebook, Instagram, all the things, and let's keep this thing going, y'all.
I appreciate it, Mike. This is a great platform for people to share their stories, and thank you for doing this and bringing it to the community.
No problem, man. All right. Look forward to connecting next time, y'all. Peace.